I'm working in a strip club, and her boyfriend's keeping my baby while I'm waitressing. Nothing's going on. Nothing's happening other than I'm illegally working in a sexually oriented business. And one day I get home, and her boyfriend goes, "You can't get your baby back until you give me $200 a day."
What?
I know. And instantly, right there, that was my first interaction with labor trafficking.
By listening to my guests share how they are discovering their best self, you will discover the best part of you.
Welcome to Discover Your Best Self podcast. Hey, you guys. Today, I have a special guest with me. This month is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And so we really want to pay some attention to what that means.
Yes.
And I have with me Miss Dr. Nissi Hamilton. And let me tell you something about her. She is what they call the Harriet Tubman for Houston. And we'll get into that and let you know exactly what that means. But listen, her story is amazing and it's inspirational. And I hope that you are able to learn something, because there are a lot of,
misnomers.
Yes, around
human trafficking.
Around sex work,
Yes.
Just all of those things, and we want to demystify a lot of those.
Demystify.
Yes, we want to do that today. So, no further ado, please tell us, who you are and where you're from.
Oh man, hello everybody. I am Dr. Nissi Hamilton, the poster child of Houston for human trafficking, but because I'm a grown ass woman, I'm also known as the Harriet Tubman of Houston, and I really appreciate the mantle of Harriet Tubman because she was a redeemer. And she did rescue her people from slavery. And, just like the slavery that we received and that was formal to us in the 1800s, 1900s, that era, we're still dealing with slavery today. And in the 21st century, the new slavery is called human trafficking. Wow. And so I love how my audience was able to put those two lifestyle goals together and the achievements of both, because we both do the same thing. We both rescue our people. We both teach, we both became signets in that era. And a signet is a sign of hope. It's a special treasure from the Father. Is mighty God, is the kingdom, is people being able to receive, a piece of the kingdom down here on earth, and saying, okay, God, we didn't have to ask for a sign. You sent us one. Yeah. So I love it, and I love Harriet Tubman, what she means and what she means now. Right. Even to me. So it's a blessing.
Right. And you're from Houston.
I am from Houston.
Yes.
Yes.
So, let's just get into it. I know that we kind of already talked about, what we'll be touching on today.
Yes.
And so, let's just talk about what is human trafficking so that people understand.
Great question. So human trafficking, I teach people to have boundaries with this definition, because I want to make sure there's a distinguishment between human trafficking versus prostitution.
Got it.
Human trafficking requires three people, and that's the buyer, the seller, the slave. So this is my human trafficking triangle to make it easy for everybody. It's three people. There's involvement. There's always the pimp, or the solicitor or the facilitator of the crime, and then there's the victim, the slave, the person who's encroached in this issue with this a person, and then there's the person that's there, that's either going to purchase, that's going to buy, or that's also going to position the sex slave into different avenues for sex and things like that.
And that could be through a club or through
Exactly.
anything.
Because human trafficking, I mean, it's a demonic conspiracy. So you got to understand, one of them is an enforcer and the other one is a solicitor.
Got it.
And so that's the reason why our new laws today are going not just after the pimps, but they're going after the buyers.
Yeah, because they're helping.
Right, because the pimp is the enforcer, but the buyer is the solicitor. They're encouraging the projection of this crime. They're enhancing it. They're saying, listen, this visual concept, the idea of this type of slavery is okay, and we should figure out a way to make this acceptable into our economy. This should be okay for us. And we're saying, no. You know, black women should have never been sold on the black market, you know, but we were. Unfortunately, that is something that we're going to live with because we experienced 400 years of slavery. As a matter of fact, most people are not even privy to this, but when we were sold on the black market, specifically for the advantage of sex, we were called wenches.
Wow.
And so you would purchase a wench. The youngest I've seen a wench be purchased and a girl be considered a wench was about 8 years old.
And so this is something that is almost inherited in our culture.
Right.
That people are like glazing over or not wanting to even talk about.
Right.
Or not giving it any significance or power and just like, no, that's just, you know, entertainment in that way.
Absolutely. And that's what's so damning about human trafficking. You see a lot of people talk about human trafficking. You see a lot of people relate human trafficking to slavery, but then they can't give you the history.
Right.
That's hurtful. That's painful. That is disruptive. When you're not clear, because the whole point of human trafficking being philosophized as slavery is for you to have a theory of knowledge.
Yeah.
Is how do we know what we know? How do we know that this is a type of slavery? And then you go back and give the history of where it is it come from. And so when you have people who are not experienced with this type of confederacy and they can't tell you where it came from and they can't give you a perspective about this issue, and then they can't give you history because history gives you context.
Right.
And the context will give you content.
That's why it's important to keep our history, first of all.
Come on. Y'all hear that? Y'all hear that preaching voice coming up out of that? She got some good interview questions. You know, it protects the narrative and it protects the image of what it is we want people to know. So then you have this, when we first started talking about human trafficking, you had this image of white slavery.
Right.
And it was, see, let me help you understand. White slavery originally, which was conformed by the man's law, which is still effective today. The only thing I don't like about the man's law is that it needs to be.
And what's the man's law?
The man's law is that, you know, a black man was not allowed to be with a white woman and basically prostitute her.
Okay.
Because that's sex trafficking. See, sex trafficking originally was a black man prostituting a white woman.
So why was that law even in effect? What was that?
Because back then there was a particular, he was not a wrestler, but he was a boxer. He was a boxer, and everybody knew that he dated white women and things like that. And everybody knew men of that caliber, men of that elite status, of that those type of dignitaries. They shared the same type of elite money, things like that. They were exposed to different sexual entourages, experiences, and just times with women. And his time with women was with white women.
Okay.
And so he became charged underneath this law because he wanted to be with a white woman who happened to be a prostitute and was prostituting herself. But the law was that he was prostituting her.
Oh.
And so originally that was the state, the narrative, and the culture around human trafficking. And so what that means is that human trafficking only addressed white women and never addressed African American, or my biopic sisters, Black and Indigenous people of color. So we left out the Latinas,
Right.
and the Indians, and the Asians,
Yeah.
and the Muslims.
Women.
There are other women that exist besides white women.
Exactly. And so, unfortunately, the man's law is not as sophisticated as we would like it to be, because it still only address one type of race.
Wow.
When it needs to just address women, period.
Right.
And so, looking at the history of that, and then seeing where we're at today, when you look at your billboards and you see human trafficking, you don't see black girls.
No, never seen them.
When you look at your advertisement for human trafficking, you don't see, black girls.
It's like that doesn't exist. Or in my mind, I'll tell you what I see, or what my perception is, because we don't see that, is perceived that when you see a black woman either prostituting herself, or it's her choice and she's not being trafficked, that's only for international.
Right. Or that we're okay.
Yeah.
With this system.
Yeah.
We're okay with this lifestyle choice, because we were introduced to this. We didn't have an option.
How does someone get introduced to, being trafficked? Like, what does that look like? And I guess your experience, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah. So, there are different ways to be introduced to trafficking. I want you to understand something. So with men, pornography has a lot to do with men being encouraged to play a role in sex trafficking, because when you're purchasing pornography, you're purchasing people. And
But what about the people who decide they want to do that?
You don't necessarily decide you just want to sell your body. I mean, just think about that.
Okay.
The content of somebody waking up and saying, you know what, I'm just gonna sell my body. Those type of decisions are usually left out for people who are either resentful, or who don't know how to make decisions, or so many decisions have been made for them inside their life that they're restless about trying to make a decision about how to create a progressive income.
Do you think that, so like, what about things like OnlyFans page and people on there, and I've seen interviews where they're like, no, one lady was a personal trainer and she decided to start doing things or whatever on there to make more money, and it seemed like it was her idea. So do you think that there's a category of people who are, yes, this is what I want to do because it might be fast money, and then there are some that don't have that decision?
I think women would like to believe that they own that choice.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But isn't that how the devil works?
I guess so. I'm trying to think, because you see that, and I guess, I don't know if it was because, I know COVID hit, and then she felt like she didn't have money. And so obviously that breeded some type of, thought process. And then she's like, well, I'm going to go on OnlyFans.
And so in that very instance, she's not being prostituted.
Right.
She's a prostitute.
Okay.
So that right there is prostitution for her.
Right.
If you look at the definition of prostitution, it's basically anybody who's in a work environment and they overvalue the work environment is considered prostitution.
Okay.
It's the person that's always going above and beyond, but the job say, attaboy, that you doing so, you're prostituting yourself, because whatever you call to do, whatever your workmanship should be for the kingdom of God, when you're doing something other than your kingdom assignment, and you're more focused on the way of this world, because you feel like if you don't adjust to this pattern, if you don't adjust to this 9 to 5, if you don't adjust to whatever lifestyle that's made available to you, and it's outside of the will of God, then you're prostituting. And so, and see, that's on a look.
That's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother level. There's levels to this conspiracy, because, like I said, this is human trafficking is a demonic conspiracy that has been led by just masculine traits of inferiority.
Yeah. And so when someone is being introduced, I'm gonna go back to that, because I know
Because we can talk.
we gonna go back and forth.
I know what y'all want to hear.
So when someone is introduced, what's happening, and what's the age?
Okay.
Maybe?
Usually, for girls, it's about 14 years old.
Wow. Freshman in high school.
Freshman in high school. For boys, it's the visual concepts, right? And so that's how they learn, right? That's a lot of their leadership. This is why the porn industry is alive. This is why videos are out there and stuff. And so they're already in the practice and the habits of purchasing people. But they also, through visual concepts, the porn industry make you believe that when you're watching porn, it's teaching you how to have sex, and that's not true. And so when these young men have, boys, oh my God, they can only go so far. Once you tell them what to imagine, they can take off. You know what I mean? And so through pornography, they can build, reconstruct, tear down, build, reconstruct, tear down what they believe is supposed to happen in a sexual experience or in that relationship. So then there's a suspended animation. So now they're living in a bubble, what it is they think love, life, relationship is supposed to be, because this is the perspective, this is the foundation that they have, right? Now, this is them in high school. With girls, it always starts off in a relationship. And that's why I tell parents, always watch out watch out social media. I talk about social media pimps all the time. No kid should have complete access and control in a metaphysical world. And we live in a metaphysical world. You're listening to this podcast in a metaphysical world, meaning we're here and you can be in India watching this video, or you could be in Africa watching this video. You can be in your shower watching this video because it's metaphysical. And so, and it just means that we can be translated into different atmospheres and spaces without having to physically go there.
Be there.
And so girls desire relationships. And so men
know that.
Right. Predatory men.
Especially, older ones.
Right.
Yeah.
They prey on that right there. And so you're online thinking you're having a relationship with somebody, and really you're talking to somebody you have no idea what's his age, what's his race, what's his background, anything.
And this has been happening for a long time.
A very long
time. Before Instagram, before Facebook, all these things. MySpace.
AOL.
I was going to say AOL, all these private chat rooms, Black Planet, all of these things where you don't even know who the hell you're talking to.
At all.
You have no idea.
At all. I'll even give you one because I talk to a lot of old school parents, and I'm constantly looking for ways to reach them. And I'll give you guys an example. For my people that were born like in the 60s and 70s, I don't know. I'm 34. How old are you?
I'm 36.
Actually,
I'm be 37 next week.
Okay. You're looking fabulous, darling.
Thank you.
Okay, so then you would have probably heard, because I heard when my parents were growing up, you couldn't drink coffee. And I remember it was a thing, like if you drank coffee, it stunt your growth, and you were considered an adult, and you
definitely heard the stunt your growth thing.
Yeah, it was like, as a child though, children were never allowed to drink coffee. And you have to understand the principle behind that. Drinking coffee meant that you were ready for adult life. And so it was almost like a girl starting her cycle, being ready for adult life.
Wow.
So in the 60s and the 70s, if a man saw a 12 or 13-year-old girl drinking coffee, she was ready to experience a life.
Which that man should already know that she's not, but they're taking advantage.
Absolutely, because she's doing adult things.
You grown.
Yeah, you grown. You've been introduced to a new way of life. Let me cultivate it. This is my opportunity, and they capture those opportunities and stuff. And we see this stuff a lot in movies like Aretha Franklin movie that just came out with Respect. It was talking about, her father, who was a pastor, and was having relations with I think the little girl was 12 years old and stuff, and Aretha may have had a baby when she was about 14 years old and things like that. These were
Oprah
things.
talks about it too.
Right.
Yeah.
These were things that happened back in the day that we just act like we're supposed to see, ignore it, sweep it underneath the rug, and then move on with your life.
Yeah.
And now we're living in the 21st century where you can't sweep and ignore, and ain't nobody hiding Uncle Papa's secrets and Uncle
exposed.
Johnny. And it's exposed now. And so if that was the sentiment, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, because we heard it, How do you think these older men who are in their 50s and their 60s feel when they see young girls going to Starbucks for coffee?
They grown.
They grown.
Yeah. And where is Starbucks usually?
Right.
Where is it?
Right next to a school.
It's right next to a high school, right in front of it.
Right next to all the places. It's a hub now for that. And so you got predators sitting in there pretending like they doing work. And they're waiting.
Yeah.
They
well,
scouting.
in high school, I remember even in junior high school, right? Walking home from school. Well, first of all, I'm walking home from school in a Catholic skirt uniform. I looked 13. Like I'm skinny, you know.
Curly hair.
Yeah. I'm looking young, you know, and you pulling over in your car.
Right.
You were grown, and they weren't teenagers. They were grown men.
Right.
Hey, you need a ride? No.
Right.
You know, and so, but depending on your mindset, and say if, you know, I come from a family or if I feel like, oh, he can help me or whatever, or, you know, that type of thing, and it sounded good to me, well, I'm gonna get in the car, you know? So you're a young girl, it's easy to manipulate a child.
Right. Especially when as a mother and a father, you have not identified the roles of certain adults in your child's lives.
Right.
And that's what happened to us when we grew up. Everybody, you know, when mama was getting ready to date a new man, everybody was an uncle. You know, it's time out for that. We have to be specific about the roles of other adults in our children's life and make sure we have a clear explanation of who they are, what they mean, what they stand for, so that we can help our children have healthy boundaries.
Right.
Because growing up, we didn't have healthy boundaries.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So the beginning of grooming is around 13, 14, and
grooming is even earlier than
happen.
that. Yeah, because you gotta, you know, we ignore, and what you don't see the media talking about a lot is familiar trafficking. And I'll give you a good case of familiar trafficking. Somebody sent me the case out in Florida with the 18-year-old girl, and she was dating the godfather. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. I think it came and left. Hold on. Okay. Anyway, it went away. Praise God. So the 18-year-old girl, she was with the godfather, and the godfather happened to be dating the mother at one point in time, and mom was in and out of jail and things like that. But the daughter was sleeping with this man and things like that, and she ended up having a baby at 16 by the man, and then later on he went on to marry her at 18 years old, and the baby is 2.
Wow.
So that right there, that's familiar trafficking. It's clear, it's evidentiary, like it's right there in everybody's face. And I mean, and the girl was online, she was defensive, she was defending herself, defending her position, you know. And listen, the girl had plenty street sense, but she didn't have any tact. You know, like you could tell as she spoke that her age had not caught up with her experiences. You know what I mean? And so there were so many things that I thought, and then the sister got on and spoke, you know, against it. Then the mom got on and spoke, and when the mom got on and spoke, you know, there was so much anger between her and the daughter, and her feeling like her daughter, you know, stole her man and things like that. And really, it's like you put her in front of him,
right?
And that was the option,
right?
You know, and he done covered up all his sin with marriage.
So, but being trafficked, does that always mean who was the buyer? Who was he
definitely groomed her.
So
he had been grooming her
to be with him.
Right, to be with him while he was with the mother.
The mother.
Yeah, so not for one instance do you ever think that the grooming started, or that the sexual exploitation started when the mother left and went to jail. It had already started while they were together.
Yeah, because he was already doing
right. This was already, you know, being done out of rebellion.
Yeah, she
went on to marry him because he was already an option for her. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's what we ignore. You ain't gonna tell me you walk around here with a 2-year-old, you know, grandchild, and you don't know who the father is.
Yeah.
You
My
understand
ex.
what I'm saying? Right.
Yeah. So I saw a story. It was on social media not too long ago. It was a young girl. I think she's just now 18 or something. And, the guy is like in his 40s or something or whatnot, maybe 45, late 40s.
Girls, we're talking about the same story.
Yeah, and maybe is that the same one? And
Yeah.
he was so adamant, and he's like, your friends are jealous of you, this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, no, we've been together, we gonna be together. So how you 18 getting married, and you been with this man?
Why? I think he's 56 or something
It's
like
kinda
that. Yeah, that's
disgusting.
him. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And
But mind you, he was supposed to be the godfather.
yes,
How you marry your godfather?
yeah, yes, that's what it was.
Right.
Okay, and so it's very. So, but for him in that instance, like, I guess people wouldn't, I mean, for me, I'm just like, okay, well, he's a predator,
Of course.
Yeah, he's a pedophile, but I wouldn't think human traffic.
Oh yeah, that's definitely familiar trafficking.
Familiar trafficking.
Right, because familiar trafficking is very silent because nobody wants to assume that especially a black mother or a black grandmother could be the one to facilitate this type of enterprise or this type of sexual exploitation.
But I hear a lot of it, like, within families that are looking for money or they don't mind, like, the daughter's 16, like, and they allow the boyfriend to come by and he's much older, might be a drug dealer or whatever it is. And because he's paying the mother, to keep the lights on and paying the bills and all that stuff, then it's okay. She doesn't mind.
Okay, that's an arranged relationship. That's an arrangement. So familiar trafficking, another good example of this would be Tyler Perry did a movie called Family Reunion, and it had Lynn Whitfield in it. I don't know if you remember that. Lynn Whitfield, and she had the two daughters. One name was Lisa, and the other one I forget her name. But in that particular movie, Lisa and the daughter, the other daughter, they had closed the door and the mom, in the room, and she said, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you the real story. Your daddy never left mom any money. He left it all for the ex-wife. He left you money, and mom's been, taking your money in connection with the dude that she wanted him to marry, her to marry, or whatever. She said, but one day your father asked to have sex with me, and I didn't know what mom was talking about. And she dressed me up and put lipstick on me and told me to put a dress on and to dress relax. You remember that scene?
I don't think I saw that.
Girl, you gotta go back and watch
Okay.
the family. Girl, it's something good, y'all. And so in that scene, you realize, Lynn Whitfield admits to basically trading her daughter for her other daughter's dad to have sex with them so that it could keep the economy of the house together. And so then she went on to say, my mother was a junkie and a real whore, and she traded me at the fence for $10. So see, her mother traded her. Her mother was trafficking her. And so when she had children, her firstborn was then a sacrifice. And she was okay with that because that was the perspective she grew up with.
Yeah. So once someone is in this role, right? I guess the victim, and then they are being groomed, and then what's like like for you, was it just like, okay, now you're out here, or what happens? Like, what was the turning point where you knew that you were a victim? Because at first you don't know, I'm assuming.
Of course you don't know.
You don't realize what's happening.
Oh no, you because women like relationships. You think you're in a relationship.
Okay. And this person is telling you they love you.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're clearly being pimped out. And what happens is called barrier testing and erosion. And barrier testing and erosion is when the man leads you into believing that you're in a relationship with them, right? Then y'all have one turmoil or one tumultuous time, and you guys get over the hump and you start building back the hope in a relationship, because most women do, build back hope in a relationship, because we think, oh, he just messed up that one time, we can get it together or whatever. And then they get you to commit emotionally to the relationship, and then they betray you.
Betray you how?
Betray you either by inviting more women into the relationship, or betray you by making you believe that in order to make the relationship work, that financially you need to go and sell your body or do X, Y, and Z, or go work in a strip club to make money to compensate for the functionality, for the effectiveness, for the equipment of the relationship.
When you say invite other women, what's that mean?
Meaning, a lot of times when girls are being trafficked, we live in what you call a harem. So there are other women. You sometimes can become the recruiter.
Oh, wow.
So if he doesn't have women already, and then you're there, and then he establishes himself with you, and boundaries have been violated, trust has been broken, there's barrier testing and erosion, there's deception and betrayal, and you decide to stay, you automatically become a bottom bitch. So you have picked up this role of a ride or die. And like, you're not going nowhere.
Like on Hustle and Flow.
Right!
Like Taraji.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely.
Because he didn't
trafficking.
Like they kind of helped each other. Well,
they did.
Yeah. They
did.
almost were like sisters, and
they're sister wives.
Yeah.
Taraji and the white girl was sister wives.
Yeah.
And the white girl was the bottom.
Yeah.
And as you can see, even in a trafficking scenario, it's never okay for you to get pregnant.
Right.
Because I don't know if you remember in Hustle and Flow.
Well, how come Taraji could get pregnant?
It was an
accident.
Well, it wasn't just so much that it was an accident. You have to understand the history of that type of pimping.
Okay.
In those country areas. So in the Black community, when you're being pimped out, if you can pimp out a young lady and the sex is without a condom, you get more money.
Okay.
If the sex is with the condom, then you pay less money.
Wow.
So it's
Woo,
almost
that is scary.
Right. It's like the difference between a $40 blowjob and a $100 blowjob.
Yeah, that's
right. $40 blowjob, you got a condom on. If it's a $100 blowjob, there's no condom.
That's like, so you just susceptible to anything.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
And so that's why you see just that hardship and that labor and really the girl trying to, show her workmanship in an entrepreneurial way. She was having sex with the DJ to get the music on, things like that. You know what I'm saying? It was just so much.
Yeah.
It was, and it was so real.
Yeah, it was.
Because it's like, that's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, and they were just down for him.
They were down.
So while you're in this, environment, right, where you may or may not be recruiting other women, or now so in your case, you went and worked somewhere.
So when I was 15 years old, actually when I was 14, my birthday's latest in October, so I'm 14, aged out of foster care. And then I turned 15, I'm pregnant, I have a baby. And then I get introduced to the system.
Okay.
So CPS invades my life. I haven't even been a mother for 20 days.
Wow.
They invade my life, and the story is that I'm homeless, in which I am homeless. I'm living behind a Walmart. I really don't have a place to stay. I do need some support services. But instead, I am put in a situation where I need help not to be condemned. And so because I was condemned as a 15-year-old mother, what ended up happening to me is the state of Texas sued me at 15 years old.
Wow. The audacity. I mean, it just does not make any sense.
None whatsoever. None. And so I'm sued at 15 years old. And I have my first lawsuit and my first baby as a mother. And I am stuck with consequences that I'm not prepared for. And I'm stuck with making decisions, even more decisions that I'm not prepared
As a
to,
15-year-old
right,
person.
to manage.
In 15, I'm in school. I'm not thinking about these things. You're not bombarded with these grown-up, decisions.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so I tell my church what's going on, and my church introduced me to a young lady. And, they suggested that I live with her while the case is going on and things like that. And I'm talking to the young lady, and she goes, "Hey, I'm working as a waitress at one strip club. Why don't you take my ID and go work at another strip club?"
The church introduced you to this person?
Well, young people get into stuff, and everybody don't know
They didn't
everybody's
know.
business. Yeah, they didn't know. They didn't know.
But it's just such a oxymoron that
It
it's
is.
like, are you kidding me?
It is. It's girls, it's tough. It's tough. So I'm sitting here thinking, hey, I can make some quick money. I got all of these restrictions from the judge. I really need to, handle my business,
Right.
keep my baby and things like that. And that's the only thing I'm focused on,
Right.
keep my baby.
Right.
Well, I'm working in a strip club, and her boyfriend's keeping my baby while I'm waitressing. Nothing's going on. Nothing's happening other than I'm illegally working in a sexually oriented business. And one day I get home, and her boyfriend goes, "You can't get your baby back until you give me $200 a day."
What?
I know. And instantly, right there, that was my first interaction with labor trafficking. So I was in debt bondage to somebody before it ended up being sex slavery.
Did that girl know that that's what he was going to do?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she
She knew that's how they made their money. I didn't know.
Right.
That was her pimp.
Right. Now he's yours.
Right. And he got my baby. So now I'm double whammy. I can't tell the court what's happening to me because you're going to take my baby because you already say I'm unfit. But then I cannot fight you because you got my baby. So now I'm forced to give you $200 a day.
A day.
A day. A day. $200 a day.
Okay.
And so, going back and forth to the club, crying to the girls, telling them what's going on and things like that. I was working at Gigi's Cabaret, which happened to be Anna Nicole's.
Oh, really?
Anna Nicole's strip club back in the Gap. Good God Almighty. Thank you, God, for delivering me. And so I'm there. And so this was a pretty wealthy club. This was not a club where you would see men who couldn't afford to purchase the women there or the sex or, a girl for a day, a week.
Wow.
They had that type of progressive income to do it. They had that leverage to be able to do it.
Purchase a girl for a week.
Yeah. What you make, baby? Here at night, 500. Oh, okay. Well, I'll give you 750. Come spend the day with me. Or I'll give you 2,500.
Is that an escort?
Spend a week. Well, you become an escort.
Yeah.
Because what happens is the advances and the advantages become like, it becomes like too hard to turn down.
Right.
It's like $2,500 to spend 1 week with one guy. This is easy.
Yeah.
I could spend 1 week with my boyfriend and not even make that kind of money.
Yes. Don't take that one.
Don't do it, kids.
But I understand the logic.
Right.
I mean, especially when you're like $200 a day. Well, what am I gonna do?
Right. And so, but the girls there, I'm crying to them. I'm telling them, hey, this is what's going on. And the girls are like, look, we're going to do your hair. We're going to put you in some different clothes. We're going to put some shoes on you. We're going to go. At that time, the manager, his name was Mitch. We're going to get a Mitch. We're going to tell him. We're going to Mitch. We're going to tell him that, like, you're going to work tonight. So, and I worked. And, well, I'm on a pole because
How old were you?
I was 15. I was 15, and so I was 15, and then I turned 16.
Yeah.
And so, because my birthday is late, and so I'm just like, oh my God, just like that. Because when you're waitressing, what ends up happening is if you're not privy to the the hospitality industry on that side of serving people and really knowing the cost of drinks, what you end up doing is overcharging the customer so that you can kind of make your money and a tip.
Oh, gotcha.
You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you serve somebody, you get $2 here, $2 there. You can make $75 to $100 a night.
Yeah.
You're not gonna make all the time $200 a night.
Mm-hmm.
You make your money in a strip club as a waitress when you're working VIP. And VIP is when you basically cover the girls, when you cover the strippers while they're doing their sexual deviations inside the clubs, and you basically protect them, and then that customer is in charge of paying you to make sure that the manager don't find out, or that if there's a raid, you tip them off so that they're clear.
Wow.
So they pay you basically to spy. So that's really where the money comes from. So it's like if you waitress inside the strip club and somebody saying they coming home with $1,500 a night as a waitress, you a spy.
Yeah.
You spy, boo. I'm sorry. I had to tell it. I'm sorry. Y'all so precious.
So you're in this environment and
I'm making his $200 a night. Now, mind you, I done told these girls this. So the girls go and tell their pimp. And so now their pimp comes to the club watching me and picking up, I'm saying? I'm depressed.
Yeah.
I'm gotta get on this phone. It was scary.
Yeah.
It's depressing. It was like, what if I get caught every day? I mean, because I'm still a kid. I was already cool. I was cool with waitressing.
Yeah.
Because at least I get to keep my clothes on, and I
Right.
can just wear some, raunchy pantyhose or whatever.
Right.
And a bustier, and I ain't got no titties. So it's like, but it's like, but now, I'm naked, my body's exposed, like what if somebody walks in here who knows the judge, you get paranoid. Like I was paranoid.
Yeah.
Don't ever think that I was that bad and bougie and bold that I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
And so that pimp comes to me and he talks to me and stuff, and he was like, baby, I could fix this for you, make things right, I could take care of you.
Oh, so now they gotta save you.
Right, this particular pimp. So the other one that's pimping me out, making the labor trafficking me, because he's not selling me for sex. He is at the club bragging about how much money he's making off of me. And so the other pimp that's been grooming me into being into position of coming to live with him and coming to be with him and coming to, you know what I'm saying? And he could take care of me and my kid, and he a grown ass man and he got it and all this other kind of stuff. Him and that guy, they end up getting into it with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the new pimp wins the fight. And so he looks like the hero to me.
Right.
Because I'm a kid.
Right.
You got a house, AC, water, and a car. Oh, I'm good. What a relief. You know what I mean? Like, I can raise my kid here. It's quiet, nice neighborhood. You're not thinking? You are trying to get out of that situation. And then, after you go, weeks and weeks turn into months, and a couple months turn into maybe about 4 months into you not working in the strip club anymore. Now that barrier testing comes in, the test of the relationship. How loyal are you to me? Are you loyal enough to me to where you'll go back to?
What does that conversation look like?
It looks like, hey, I'm running low on my ends. You weren't
running low before this stuff.
Right. Oh, wait a minute. Your hair costing me money. Your nails costing me money. You got a kid here now. You ain't getting no child support. You ain't getting no, welfare services and stuff like that. You got people in and out my house all the time. It's costing me this much money. It looks like this.
Wow.
You're a liability to me right now. You think you can work to, alleviate some of this
extra
income barriers that we having right now. and everything is we and and you ain't doing this, so you doing this for us, baby. It's for us, it's for us, it's for us. And after the 1500 no, or after the 1500, let me think about it, because there's so much pressure on you, and you're waiting him out, so because you think he's gonna let it go and leave it alone.
But he's saying specifically, can you go back to the club?
Right, and he's saying it nicely. What ends up happening is you get in the car one day and you think y'all are going out to dinner, and then he drives you up to a motel room, and then he tells you, if you don't come out with my money, then that's your ass.
What?
And so then just like that, all over again. All over again. And so what do? When you're betrayed on that level? I got these CPS people in my life. This judge is down my throat. I have to get a GED. I got to have somewhere to stay. And I'm 17 at this point. So at this time is going by.
Time is going by.
My kid is getting older. You know what I mean? And, it's like, now he's been forcing me to have sex with all of these men, that now I get pregnant by a John while he's trafficking me to other people. So I'm still in court, because the court case lasted for 2 years. I'm going to court pregnant with another one.
Yeah,
while living with him.
Right.
And so in the end result of me being trafficked, because that happened in 2003, DFPS did not start actually dealing with human trafficking until about 2016. So that's 13 years of not dealing with sexual exploitation. And to this day, I'm the first known case in the state of Texas where I was actually sued for child support by the men who trafficked me. And they won. So I had to pay my traffickers child support.
Why did they win?
They won because what they used was, I'm an unfit mother.
Right.
Or they had the money, or they had the leverage, or they had the lifestyle that looked better than mine. Or you can see my flaws because I got this track record from when I was a child. You get what I'm saying? That was used against me as an adult.
Wow.
And then they had their parents. They came from 2-parent households and stuff like this. All pimps are not like how people perpetrate them to be. I mean, they ain't all gangsters and men who are,
deceiving.
Average thinkers. And some of these men have, families and have wives, and they have lives and they have children.
But they're not thinking this is trafficking.
Oh no, they definitely know it's trafficking. It's just the people that's around them.
They know how to make it look
right. People encourage them. They have sisters that encourage it. They have mothers that encourage it. I had one case I was dealing with. She knew her brother was, a pimp, and she said, she called me. She said, "Nissi, I don't want the burden of this no more. I need to report him. I need to report him, and I need to report this." And she did it immediately, and we were able to get together, work with HPD, and and try to assist the girl. I mean, and she didn't want the assistance. That's okay, but like I told her, and like I told HPD, at least they know we care.
Yeah,
that's what's important.
Yeah,
and when she's ready, she'll have a safe place.
Yeah. So how do you, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit.
Yeah, let's fast forward. Because I know everybody's saying, "Oh my God."
It's a lot.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. It's a lot to unpack. And just your mindset is like, what? The audacity of somebody to just get out, go do this, Right. And so, once you're out, I know you got listed into the Navy.
I did. That's how I got out.
Yeah.
And so what happened to me was I was at Passions Cabaret, and I don't know if y'all, that's a Houston thing. I know everybody's like, Passions, where's Passions? I was at Passions Cabaret. It's closed down now. And I remember I got into it with my pimp there, and he beat me. Outside the club, and it was publicly humiliating to me. And I was already going to Franklin Beauty School at this time. So people at school knew that I was being trafficked, but it wasn't called trafficking. They thought I was just stripping. So they knew I was stripped at nighttime and then come to beauty school in the
Right.
morning.
That's why you don't know what people are really
Right.
doing or what you think somebody or something of someone, but you don't know why or what's going on really.
Absolutely. And so I went to Franklin Beauty School, and the school was very supportive of me. They did what they could with what they could. But the bottom line, I needed to know, how to do some hair and put chemicals in people's hair
Yeah.
without going to jail for it, right?
Right.
So school is sometimes not the best place to deal with social issues.
Right.
And so, but I'm grateful for what I did learn. And I remember I worked at a lingerie store inside of Greenspoint Mall. And the entrance you could go in through the mall was near the Armed Forces entrance of Greenspoint. And when you went in, there's like the Air Force, the Marines, the Army, and then there's the Navy. And the Navy recruiter would be out there all the time. And he would always talk to me. I mean, for months.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, you need to join. Hey, you need to join. Hey, you need to join. And why you come here so early in the morning? You always come to work on time. I can show you somewhere you can get on time. You can use that skill in the Navy. He was really just pushing it, and I was like, these white people don't want me. He was like, they're not just white people in the Navy. They're black people.
There are other ones.
See how low my level was. Thinking I was just like, no, nobody's gonna accept me. I don't have that lifestyle. I don't even have parents now. And I remember going into the mall that one day, and I was crying. And my recruiter name was Reese Tyler. And I remember Reese saw me, and he saw me crying, and he said, oh no, you gotta do something.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stay here like this. He was like, let me know when you're ready. And I said, just come on. I'm going to take the ASVAB. Come on. He was like, you serious? I said, yes, I'm serious. I'm going to take the practice test. I've been out of school for 2 years. I'm going to take it. He was like, all right. I took the practice test, and I did extremely well on it. And he was like, okay, I'm going to sit you down at 701 San Jacinto so you can take the real test. Because if you're serious about going, let's do this. And I went to 701 San Jacinto, and I get in there, and everybody is looking at me like, what the fuck just walked in here?
What did you look like?
Oh my God. I didn't look like I was ready for the military. I had red hair. I had a labrae. I had a piercing right here and a piercing right here. I had 2 tongue rings. My boobs were pierced. My pee-pee and my poo-poo was pierced. Oh my God, it was so horrible. I had tattoos. Oh my God, it was freakishly courageous. It was like,
you're getting ready for something. You don't even know what.
I didn't know how to be ready for a prepared place. That's why I love the Lord. Jesus. I love God because he covered me.
Yeah.
Man, you know what? That day I could say I was bold because I went in there and there's politics in the military. It doesn't matter where you go. When you're going into a corporate setting and you're not familiar with the structure of the system of it, there is politics. And I remember going in there, getting ready to take my test, and I remember the proctor, he was an African-American male, and I remember him saying, they're not going to let you take your test with your hair this color. And I was like, so I'm sitting here until they say something. And so he was like, oh, oh, he was like, y'all make my job hard.
Yeah.
Oh, you know that black man side. Oh,
Yeah.
Damn, we got another one. And so they ended up having to call my recruiter because they wouldn't let me take the test because I went in there with my hair red. and things like that. And you needed to go in there looking like you came from a 2-parent household and not like you come off the stripper pole,
Yeah.
And so, and there was nowhere to hide. Everybody knew I was a stripper. It was like written all over my face. They all knew, And so I cried and went in the bathroom. I was like, Father God, in the name of Jesus, I was like, I know you're mad at me, but right now, God, I need you to come through for me. Girl, I was in the bathroom at the Navy.
Yeah.
Girl, one of the commanding officers said, who in the bathroom praying that hard?
Somebody who needs some help.
Oh, y'all, I was praying at the commanding office, y'all. I know they was like, oh my God, we got a live one.
Yeah.
We got a live one. Somebody call the ambulance.
But what did that teach you in that moment? And then when you passed the test, what did that teach you about yourself, right?
Well, it was how I passed the test.
Okay.
Well, because when I went back in and they finally said, okay, she could take the test, but she got to cover her head.
Okay.
I went back in to take the test, but I had a bag over my head.
Well, there you go.
And
sometimes you just got to get it done.
Sometimes you just got to get where you fit in.
It's life, or it's your life.
Oh,
this is serious.
Right. I'm getting beat on. I'm tired at this point. I'm in debt bondage, sex slavery. I got 2 kids now. This is enough. I'm tired.
Yeah.
My life is escaping from me. And I'll go in there, I'll take that test with that damn bag over my head. And I remember that black man walked up to me, he said, it'd be a damn shame if you came here with all these white folks and took this test and then failed it with this bag over your head. I said, well, I ain't gonna fail today. So now here's the tricky part. I went in during the time of war. So back then, really you can't go into the Navy with a GED. You have to have a high school diploma. And so if you have a GED, they'll make exceptions sometimes, but the score has to be different. So if you had for instance, if you had a high school diploma, you might have could have made a 10 on the ASVAB and you'd be good. But in my case, because I had a GED, I had to make a 50 and above.
There you go.
So when they got the test back, that test came back 54. I said, you know what? That's all I need.
That's all I need was a 50 and
all I needed was a 55.
That's it.
No, they came in there and told me I made that 54. Girl, and it just seemed like, just life. Just everything and anything you can think of just happened. It happened so fast. And I remember the biggest thing going into the Navy, because I was not, because I did not come from a background that was familiar to their process. I had to get 8 waivers just to get in. Like I had already had 2 dependents by the time I was 18. That's a no-no. I already had a GED. I had tattoos and piercings. I didn't have a mother and a father. I didn't have parents. I did not have a physical address or a permanent address. Right?
These are all things that we think are normal. Like that we're like, oh, they, like
you should at least have.
Yeah, they're not expecting these hurdles. And so, but it's something about you, right? Because it's not going to be for everybody.
No.
It's something about you that someone is like, no,
right,
we're going to do this. And something about you where you didn't want to give up. So
right.
Those two have to meet. And it has to make sense. Right. And at that time, it was. And I think that all of us have those moments.
Right.
In whatever situation. Right. In whatever situation.
It's called faith.
Yeah.
Faith without works is dead. And here's the thing about faith. You don't need faith in a time of crisis. Faith is a lifestyle choice. And that's what I had to learn. I had to learn that no matter how much sin I was in, no matter how much I thought God wasn't listening to me, no matter how much I thought that he wouldn't hear me in that very moment, I had a if you will ministry. If you will, Father, then I will give myself unto you. I had another welling in me that required submission. I caught the Father's ear in a moment, in a time. I was able to stop time. I was able to go into suspended animation and control the atmosphere Girl, that's the type of, when you ain't used to that kind of power and you get that kind of power instantaneously, girl, that's the type of freedom. Freedom is scary. Freedom is scary for anybody that's never had it before. And I had not realized that up until that point, everything that I had been introduced in my life was an impediment and an insult to my freedom. Because I was living outside of the reality that the Father wanted me to live in.
So when you had that freedom,
yes, Lord,
right? What were the things that came to you? You know, I guess you got out of the situation, you went through the Navy, you know, you did all those things, and I'm assuming you didn't have a regular job.
No, actually,
you just don't seem like you'll have a regular job.
No,
like you just,
of
you
course not. You think about my life is regular.
Yeah, like you
what?
can't, like you're not going to go apply somewhere. Like how do you transition that into what you do today, and how do you make a living, right? Because it's so much. But then there's also grace and forgiveness.
Ooh,
and it's you're able to do something else more than just yourself.
So I'll say this. I had no idea that God was turning me into a warrior because sometimes I can't stand God.
You were in a big training ground.
Girl, what I know? Because I'm gonna tell you something. When you get ready to fight some big demons, you have to train just as hard as the enemy does that's coming after you, if not 2 times harder than the enemy that's been after you. And my training was intense.
Yeah.
When I went into the military, I went in as a military police officer, and typically you can't go into the military as a military police officer unless you're E5 and above. I went in as an E1. So from the ground, just law enforcement was embedded into me. So, you know, I got introduced to the M9 and the 16s and the shotguns and stuff, and I even became a sharpshooter. And it was just so interesting, the lifestyle and the study habits that I had being a police officer, because I wasn't trained by. I didn't go to San Antonio Lackland to be trained by the military. I actually got trained by Blackwater. And if you know anything about Blackwater, these are natural born killers. Like, these are the men that the government would hire to go kill people. And I say nothing. So, I'm out here being trained by some professional goons.
Yeah.
I love you, Jesus.
I'm not a killer, but don't test me.
Yeah, I ain't no killer, but don't test me. And so I'm in here learning some really good warfare strategies and some techniques that I had not been privy to.
Yeah. And
it created a boldness in me. And it gave me an attitude and an appetite for leadership that I had never been exposed to before.
Wow.
And it gave me an introduction into corporate leadership, corporate management. The first thing when you go into the military, they teach you about money and money management. And then as you go on, you begin to learn, you know, that millionaires are not millionaires because of physical money. They're millionaires. Millionaires are millionaires because of the conflict that they manage. You see, the bigger the conflict you manage, the more money you make. The smaller the conflict you manage, the lesser money you make. So when you say, how did I transform this skill into money? Well, you don't. What you do is you manage the conflict that God assigns you.
Wow.
And then the money will follow.
Tell him.
She told me some tell him.
Tell him.
If you go and read Luke 16:9, the Bible says to be friends with the unrighteous mammon. So mammon is a god that governs money, but he works for God. So God controls mammon. God tells mammon what to do and how to facilitate money. He sends it out. So as much as we hear people talk about prosperity, it's like you want the kind of money you think you want. You know you're gonna need to know some evil people. You understand what I'm saying? And And you gotta adjust your lifestyle choices, and how you operate and function. And don't just be asking for money so that you can push your personal agenda. You can't do this with a personal agenda. And you see a lot of motivational speakers, a lot of people, push that into the atmosphere. But you gotta think, if you're gonna make that kind of money, think about how selfish you gotta be. Because the people that's out there making the real money are the people that are out there solving problems for other people. And that's the truth.
And so through all of this, so what do you do today?
I am a motivational speaker. Human trafficking became a ministry for me. I begged God. I said, God, please, I don't want to be a pastor. Please, I don't want to. Please. I was like, God, they're going to talk about me. They're going to talk about me. He said, they already talking about me.
They already said it. I know. They are, whatever is going to be said has been said.
I said, God, dog, you got to be more careful. But really grateful for the transfiguration of human trafficking. I love even in the ordination of apostleship, because apostles understand the systems of God, how God was able to help me understand and discern in this material world what human trafficking looks like as it relates to a demonic confederacy. Who's the authorship of it? What demon is controlling it? What does it look like in the high places? And I'm able to show you in the Bible where this stuff resided at first. The reason why we're dealing with it today.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing you could do is tell a government to go after a demon that you don't even know how to dismantle. You ain't even got a strategy against it.
Yeah.
I was ministering that on Facebook earlier today. I was like, I'm tired of the church dealing with domestic violence and dealing with rape and dealing with depression and dealing with sexual assault, and they dealing with, all of this physical abuse and all this other kind of stuff, but then you don't deal with human trafficking.
Right.
Then where the survivors gonna go? You dealing with everybody else's demon except for theirs.
Right.
Because dealing with demons means that you have strategy.
You have to have strategy.
You gotta have strategy.
And you strategic.
I'm a tactician. That's what I'm saying. I'm more than a motivational speaker. I'm a tactician. I'm a weapon against human trafficking. I'm a weapon against illegal authorities in the earth realm.
But it's not just the speaking. It's
Right.
not just that. It's the law.
Right.
And
I know the natural law and I know the spiritual law.
Yeah, you know the laws, and that's how you're able to maneuver. That's how you're able to be strategic and actually help people.
Absolutely.
Because it's one thing to be talking all day and giving people motivation, but now what do I do?
Right.
And so that's where, and we're going to have to get to, a little bit of the business part, which is that's how you're able to finance your life.
Right.
It's to be able to show that there is that there's an outcome that we can get to.
Absolutely. I remember when I first got started, I was raising money, but I was raising money on the low end, and I really hadn't just functioned all the way in my gifting and calling, and I was raising money, giving it away. And finally, I raised some money this year beyond the scope of my imagination. And I said, you know what? I am going to start a business with this. So I raised $25,000 to start my nonprofit. It's Nissi's Network.
Okay.
So under Nissi's Network, you got a Survivor's Voice of Victory, and then you got Nissi's Closet. Because I kept coming up with all of these ideas and this stuff like this, and people were like, well, who do I donate to? I'm just like, just do Cash App, honey, because I'm not doing all of this stuff. I'm like, I ain't got time to keep up with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll file taxes on it, and I'll pay the taxes for it. So, but then the scope of my work became global.
Yeah.
People were reaching out to me from Africa.
Because it is a global thing.
It is global.
Yeah.
It's global. I speak to my brothers and sisters in Africa, and I speak to my brothers and sisters in Pakistan.
Yeah.
I started speaking to people just all over, and it blew up.
Yeah.
It's more than what I expected, but I can definitely tell you, grant money didn't get me here.
Yeah.
The kingdom financed this entire movement.
Yeah.
of human trafficking. And listen, I want to be clear. I am not the only person that speaks about human trafficking. I'm not the only person you can look up and research. I have other sister survivors that are out there doing their thing. I definitely endorse them. I pray that the favor of the Lord goes with them wherever it is that they go. Oh my God, they are so blessed. But I do want to say that I love how God, you know how you got 5 different burger joints, you McDonald's, you got
And they
Burger
all
King.
making money.
Yeah, they all, but they all have their way of reaching their audience.
Yeah.
And what it is
Yeah.
that they sell.
Yeah.
And my thing is human trafficking and the Bible. I want the word has to be attached to this thing, because I don't want people just studying the demon and then not studying the Father. I don't ever want people to be in a position where you know more about that enemy than you do about the Father who can cancel out that enemy. And because God is sick and tired of his daughters practicing the pain, practicing how to negotiate with pain, and never negotiating with the promise.
Yeah. And so, last question.
Oh, and I got the sniffles, y'all. It's okay. I'm gonna talk to y'all. I'm goofy. Yup, I am. Yeah. It's all good.
What does it mean? You've been through all these things, and what does it mean to discover your best self?
Ooh, that's a big question. Self-actualizing is something that is very difficult to do when you're a wife, when you're a mother, when you have children. You end up being all of these people for all these other people.
Yes, all the time.
All the time. But when you self-actualize, meaning there's a part of you that you keep reserved just for you.
I like that.
Just for you and the Father. It ain't got nothing to do with your children, ain't got nothing to do with your husband, ain't got nothing to do with your friends, ain't got nothing to do with your job, ain't got nothing to do with your mama and them and who you mean to everybody else in your social world. It's you having just a direct relationship with you. We talk all the time about the IQ, which is the measure of your intelligence. But a lot of times we don't talk about the EQ and the AQ. And when you self-actualize, you're in tune with the IQ, the EQ, and the AQ.
What's AQ and EQ?
The EQ is the measurement of your emotions, your emotional quotient. Meaning you're somebody who can be in a position of leadership and make a decision without your discernment being shifted to one side, because your yay is your yay and your nay is your nay. You're solid, you're grounded, you know how to be objective.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
saying?
Like that. And so
that takes a lot of discipline.
Ooh, the weave we web. Lord have mercy. I'm telling you, and it all starts with that book of the face. That Facebook. I call it the book of the face. Because sometimes you be wanting to put your mouth on stuff, and God is like, don't put your mouth on there right there, because you end up, you know what I'm saying, you end up facilitating your hurt and your pain with what comes out of your mouth. And you have to understand something. God governed his world with his mouth. He loved his word so much that he called himself the Word.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I ain't got to overvalue the expectation. If you want a certain reality, use your mouth.
Yeah.
The Bible says that the power of life and death is in your tongue. And so even with that piece of knowledge right there, we know that prostitutes are prophets, right? But the problem is where they get their information from. You get what I'm saying? And they actually self-actualize more than regular people do, because to be a prostitute, you have to be selfish.
What's A?
And your AQ is the measurement of your adaptability.
Got it. So your IQ, your intelligence, your EQ
is your emotions.
Emotions, and your AQ is your
Adaptability. You got to be able to adapt. Look how God was able to. I came off the pole and went straight into the military. That's adaptability.
Listen.
Without fail.
Yeah.
And so
how can people find you?
Well, you know what? They hacked my Instagram, so I'm a little bitter about that, but that's okay. You know what? I have Facebook, and I have a Facebook page, Nissi Nissi Hamilton #I Survive Human Trafficking. You can friend me on Facebook. You can definitely follow the page. I'm posting on there all the time. I'm on Twitter at Hamilton Nissi. I have a big political following and things like that. So if you see a political page, that's me as well, and stuff, because we have to be able to take our cause into politics.
Yeah.
And to be able to show governance and reverence, respect to the Father and what He wants to do in those areas. But we can't keep running to sexually oriented businesses and saying, oh, it's okay to be a stripper. You have to go back to the history of what the pole meant. The pole is an asterisk, it's a god. So whenever you as a stripper or you as a sex worker, I don't know how some women like to refer themselves, and you get up there and you get on that pole and you're dancing and you're on the asterisk, you become a god, because then you have men in there paying homage to you, right? With almost like with the tithe and the offering with their money.
Yeah.
And you're on the pole. And so, and then not only that, what really makes it, what really put it in perspective for you is that you got men paying money and homage to a god, asterisk, because you become a god, you become like God. So you have to think yourself above God. You paying a tithe in a strip club to a woman that's on a pole with money that says, "In God we trust." But who's God? So this is where we draw the line at, and we have to understand, choose ye this day whom will you serve. But don't just be walking around and saying, as for me and my house we shall serve the Lord. As for me, it's personal. And this house is generational. We shall serve the Lord. So if you're going to do this, make this about the generation. Make this about teaching. Make this about understanding how to get there. Because there's a strategy, there's a principle that will get you to the promise. You know what I'm saying? His goodness is in reference to His character.
Yeah.
His greatness is in reference to His competency about you. So if taking off your clothes can't save a nation, baby, pick them up, put them back on, find you some Jesus, because He love you.
Thank you.
Oh, I love you.
This is really great, and I'm sure anyone who's listening, I hope that you were able to get something out of this, no matter if you've been through, something similar or not, but it just, it's awesome, and so, follow us on Discover Your Best Self on Instagram. You can find us on all of your podcast outlets, any of your iTunes, and then also don't forget to subscribe on YouTube as well.
Awesome. Bye, guys. I love you.
Thank you for listening to Discover Your Best Self. Don't forget to subscribe and comment. Follow us on Instagram at Discover Your Best Self.